Hey guys, ready to take your drive test at the DMV? Then you'll definitely want to stay tuned because Driver's Ed Direct is about to reveal the top autofills you'll want to avoid if you want to go home with a driver's license. Hey guys, Ben with Driver's Ed Direct. I'm here today to go over the top 10 reasons students fail the test at the DMV. These are great stats to know and great things that you can practice so you don't make these same mistakes on the test. The number 10 reason students fail the DMV drive test: failure to identify and react to hazards. What are hazards? Hazards are things that present themselves on the road, many times unexpectedly, that you need to react to appropriately. Things like a pedestrian running across the street, maybe a cyclist, parked cars, sometimes swing doors open, emergency vehicles. On your test, you might encounter emergency vehicles. When these kinds of hazards happen, what are you going to do? The examiner wants to see that not only do you identify the hazard, but you also react to the hazard, which usually means you're going to cover the brake or slow down a little bit and create a little extra space cushion just so you can be a little bit more cautious and assess the situation. That way, if it is a dangerous situation, you can stop or take evasive action. The number 9 reason students fail the DMV drive test is curbside parking. Curbside parking is one of the core components of your DMV drive test. All right, guys, let's do a nice curbside park up here. So let's imagine that the examiner asks us to curbside park. So we're gonna put on our right turn signal. We're gonna check our mirrors, look over our shoulder, and then just very gently, very slowly move towards the curb. And once we kind of feel the separation between the road and the gutter, we start to straighten out. Again, we're going real slow. And once we're nice and straight, within 18 inches, turn off our signal, park, emergency brake, right? Now I made sure that I was, a good foot away from the curb. Within 18 inches, I just didn't want to get so close that I would hit it. Now the examiner is gonna ask me, or ask you, to back up about 15 feet. You just back up till they tell you to stop. So I'm gonna put my car in reverse, take off the emergency brake. I'm checking my mirrors, but predominantly I'm looking over my shoulder, right? I don't see any cars coming behind me. I'm gonna go ahead and reverse. I'm gonna keep my wheel very straight so that I don't back into the curb and that I don't back into traffic. You might be tempted to move your wheel a little bit as you look backwards, but don't. Just keep it nice and straight and go very slow. Go very slow so that you have total control of the car and that you can brake quickly if necessary. So you just keep rolling back nice and straight, and then when the examiner says stop, stop. And that's how you curbside park. The number 8 reason students fail the DMV drive test: center turn lane use. This is one of those things that a lot of students struggle with because they just don't practice it a lot. The center turn lane is that lane between two-way traffic. It's got the solid lines on the outside and the dashed lines on the inside. You use that lane to either finish a left turn or to start a left turn. On your DMV test, it's probably going to present itself when you're returning to the DMV. The examiner will ask you, pull into the DMV driveway, making a left turn, and there'll usually be a center turn lane there, right? Okay guys, I'm gonna demonstrate to you how to use the center left turn lane. There's a parking lot up here I wanna pull into, and there's a center left turn lane I'm gonna use to do it. So before I go into the center left turn lane, I have to put on my signal to the left, check my mirrors, look over my shoulder, and then make a safe lane change into that center left turn lane when it's open. Now you can drive in the center left turn lane for up to 200 feet. And there's the driveway I want to turn into. And now I'm monitoring oncoming traffic as well as looking for pedestrians or anything that may be in my way. And as that car clears the driveway, then I can make my move. And there you have it. So again, you use your center left turn lane to start your turn into the most likely the DMV parking lot. Make sure that there's no oncoming traffic, no pedestrians, and then safely pull in when the driveway is open. And again, going into the center left turn lane, make sure you make it a proper lane change. You will fail your test if you just go from the normal traffic lane into that center left turn lane without doing a full lane change. Number 7 is, believe it or not, driving too slow. You would think that more kids would fail the drive test from driving too fast, but it's actually 5 to 6 more times likely that you'll fail for driving too slow. And it's not surprising why, because it's your drive test. You're trying to do everything perfect. You're nervous. So you're being a little more cautious, maybe a little more timid than normal, right? It's okay to go a few miles below the speed limit, but once you start going super slow, you're gonna get into trouble. Figure out which DMV you're gonna take your test at, and then get comfortable with those neighborhoods, right? Drive on those streets around the DMV. Get an idea of what the speed limits are. Some DMVs, it'll be 30 miles per hour. Some DMVs, it'll be 45, 50 miles per hour. Just depends where you live. The rule for school zones is you drive the posted school zone speed limit when children are present. If you don't see children, then you should be scanning and, aware of your surroundings. But if you don't see children, then you don't slow down to that school speed limit. That could also get you failed for driving too slow. Number 6 reason why students failed the DMV drive test: disobeying stop signs and red lights. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. You run a stop sign, you blow through a red light, you're going to fail your test. But keep in mind, you don't want to roll any of your stops. Always come to a complete full stop behind the limit line before proceeding, right? So do not roll your stops. Also, when you come up to the red lights and the stop signs, when you approach them, you want to do safely and at a safe speed. There's no reason to race to your stop, right? You might know that you're going to stop at the red light or the stop sign, but the examiner doesn't know what you're thinking. And if you're going too quickly or too fast up to that stop, they might tell you to slow down or stop. And if they do that, that's considered examiner intervention. That's an auto fail. Let's talk about the number 5 reason students fail the DMV drive test: lane changes. It's not a surprise. Lane changes are one of the more difficult concepts for new drivers to grasp. First of all, you need to make sure you're doing your smog, your traffic checks, right? You can't just go from one lane to another lane blindly. You need to signal, check your mirrors, look over the shoulder, the direction that you're changing lanes into, and then go when it's safe. Another thing that gets students into trouble with their lane changes is they impede the progress of other drivers. When you make a lane change, you can't cause any other driver to slow down or to have to steer around you, right? Which basically means you can't cut off another driver. Another kind of related issue, but almost the opposite, is being too timid. I've seen a handful of fails where the student failed because there was a safe gap for them to make a lane change, but they didn't go. If the examiner has to intervene, even verbally, that's also an auto fail. And finally, you need to be smooth with your lane changes. If you're very jerky, you're gonna get in trouble. Your lane changes should be graceful. They should take a few seconds, right? Gently ease over into the next lane. Don't do it very abruptly. Okay, so I wanna make a left lane change up here, but I got a lot of traffic in front of me and a lot of traffic behind me, so it's gonna be a little challenging. But once I see a sufficient gap coming, then I'm gonna start getting ready to go here. I'm gonna put on I'm gonna wait because here's an intersection, right? I don't wanna make a lane change in the middle of an intersection. Now I'm through, and now there's another car gonna try to pass me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my signal on to let them know that I wanna make a lane change. And I'm signaling, check my mirrors, look over my shoulder. And while I'm making this lane change, I'm also recognizing that the light in front of me is turning red. So that presented another challenge where I needed to actually slow down a little bit as I finished my lane change. Let's talk about the number 4 reason why students fail the DMV drive test. I'm talking about making a right turn at a red light. This is something that may not even happen on your drive test, but if it does, you need to be prepared and know how to handle it, right? There's nowhere in the DMV handbook, nowhere in the vehicle code that says you have to make a right turn on a red. So if you don't have to, if you can kind of wait just a couple seconds for the light to turn green, let the light turn green before you make your right turn. However, you might be in a situation where the examiner actually requests you to make the right on the red when it's safe to do so. And if you disobey the examiner, that's also an auto fail. So you need to know how to do it if forced to do it, right? First and foremost, before you make a right on a red, it's a red light. You need to come to a complete stop, and you need to come to that complete stop before the crosswalk. So come to that complete stop before the crosswalk, and once you check that there's nobody in the crosswalk, right? You're looking left, right, left. Slowly inch into the crosswalk so you can start to get a better view of the cross traffic, right? Then you're checking for the traffic that has the right of way. You're checking for cross traffic. If the lane is open, remember you're turning into the rightmost lane. If the lane is open and you can turn into it without impeding anybody's progress, then go for it. I need to make a right turn here. There's a red light. Check for bicyclists. I'm gonna come to a complete stop behind the crosswalk here. See, now I got a truck here blocking the view of the crosswalk, so I gotta creep up real slow and check for pedestrians. And now I can see that it's open, light's about to turn, and I'm good. The number 3 reason that students failed the DMV drive test is handling two-way stops. That's where you come to an intersection where you have a stop sign and the cross traffic does not. Two-way stops are a concept that a lot of students struggle with. So since I'm taking a right, I already put on my signal, I'm checking my mirrors, look over my shoulder as I fade closer to the curb there, about 4 or 5 feet from the curb. Now it's a two-way stop. I don't have the right of way, so I come to a complete stop before the limit line and I look for pedestrians before I start to inch out. And as I inch out, I go very slowly because pedestrians are sometimes a scooter, a bicyclist, might come really fast on the sidewalk. Now, once I know the sidewalk's clear, I'm gonna inch out, and I have to inch out pretty far because there's parked cars blocking my view. So you inch out very slowly, and once you see a gap, you accelerate, and then you wanna get up to the speed of traffic safely but quickly so that you don't impede anybody's progress. First and foremost, you have to come to a complete stop behind the limit line. Right? Even if you know you're going to have to inch out to get a better view of traffic, you still have to do that full stop behind the limit line. You got to stop behind the limit line, check for pedestrians, right? Check for any obstacles, and then slowly inch forward. Remember, when you inch forward to get a better view of the traffic, go slow. If you go a little too quickly, you might startle the examiner. They might think you're going for it. They can fail you right there for doing that, right? So go out slowly. Now, as you inch out, realize you might have to stop again. You might, inch out till you can actually see the traffic that's hidden behind parked cars or bushes or whatever. And you might need to stop again. Whatever you do, inch out as far as you need to, making sure you're going very slowly. Once that you see it's completely clear and that you can proceed without impeding any other driver's progress, right? Also making sure that all the crosswalks are clear, then you can go for it. Right turns. The number 2 reason that students, and a lot of students, fail their DMV drive test, not being able to handle right turns. Now, obviously on a right turn, which is something you do a lot of, you need to be smooth, you need to be graceful, you need to have the proper mechanics to make your right turn, so practice them, right? Practice right turns coming from a stop, practice right turns where you're moving with the flow of traffic, a rolling right stop. In general, the safe speed for your right turns, 10 to 15 miles per hour. You want to finish your right turns in the rightmost lane, the lane closest to the curb, right? Once you've got the mechanics down, you need to make sure that you're doing all the safety things right. A lot of kids, even a lot of adults, to be quite honest, really don't understand how the bike lanes work, or at least don't check for the bike lanes. You've got to do a smog. You've got to do a complete signal mirror over the shoulder before you go on any of your right turns. You need to be checking for bicyclists and pedestrians that are going to be coming to your right, either in the crosswalk or in the bike lane. To my right here, we've got a bike lane, right? So we want to merge into it, but we can't merge into it until we get the dotted lines. So I put on my right signal, check my mirrors, check my blind spot, no bicyclists, and I merge into the bike lane. This is a skinny bike lane, so you're only partially into it, but that's fine. And there's a long line of cars up here, so we probably won't be able to make this right turn until it turns green. That's fine. And I'm checking the crosswalk, left, right, left, and I'm gonna finish in the rightmost lane here. So get really comfortable making right turns, especially when bike lanes are involved. And even when you're in residential, you're still required to do that same smog. There might not be a painted bike lane or anything like that, but you still need to do your signal, your mirror, over the shoulder before you go. So again, on your right turns, get fluid, get comfortable, making them graceful, not being jerky, having good steering control, not understeering, not oversteering. And then also make sure you do all your traffic checks, that you're really aware of what's going on in the bicycle lane and in the crosswalk with pedestrians. All right, guys, we made it all the way down to number 1, and I'm about to reveal the number 1 reason why students fail the DMV drive test: unprotected left turn lanes. And what is an unprotected left turn? Well, it's a left turn when you don't have the right of way. It's a left turn when the oncoming straight traffic has the right of way. The pedestrians have the right of way, right? So on an unprotected left turn, you generally are, stuck waiting in the intersection, waiting for oncoming traffic to clear. And then when you have a safe gap and there's nobody in the crosswalk, you make your left turn. All right, let's make a left turn at the line up here. Light's red, and I see the left turn lane. Throw on my signal, check my mirrors, look over my left shoulder, and glide into the left turn lane there. The light just turned green. I'm still going to look left, right, left at the intersection, and I'm going to inch out about a third of the way into the intersection as I wait for a safe gap in traffic. Now, while I'm waiting, I'm obviously watching oncoming traffic. I'm also looking at the crosswalks in the corner of where I'm turning into for pedestrians. And you're always keeping your eyes moving. You're watching the light, making sure it's not turning yellow or red on you. Watching traffic, watching pedestrians. You're gonna look over your shoulder every once in a while to make sure a pedestrian doesn't come from behind you. Now I see a gap coming, everything looks good, and I'm gonna go with confidence for my turn. Guide it in there, nice smooth turn. When I finish, I check my mirror to see if there's anything coming behind me that I may have missed. And that's how you do an unprotected left turn. All right, so there's two basic scenarios that cause the autofails when you're making your unprotected left turns. The first one is when you decide to go when it's not safe. Usually, you go and that means the oncoming traffic is impeded or has to slow down, or worse yet, swerve to avoid hitting you. So when you make your left turn, none of the oncoming traffic should have to slow down or steer to avoid you. Also, when you make your left turn, you better make sure that there's nobody in the crosswalk. So nobody in the crosswalk should have to wait for you to make your turn or have to run to get out of your way, right? So the oncoming traffic and the crosswalk, they have the right of way. The other one is kind of the opposite of that. That's not making your left turn when there is a safe gap or a sufficient gap to make your turn. You don't want to be sitting, a third of the way in the intersection waiting to make your left turn, and then when it's safe to go, not go. You don't want to be hanging out in the intersection. And what happens a lot on the DMV test is the examiner will say, hey, what are you doing? You have a safe gap. Please go for it. Even though that's helpful, it's also an autofail because that's examiner intervention. All right, guys, there you have it. The top 10 reasons students fail the test at the DMV. From everybody at Driver's Ed Direct, thanks for tuning in. We hope the information we gave today will help you pass your DMV test. And more importantly, we hope it helps you be a safe, confident driver. Good luck out there. See you next time.